Mani sir, let us start. Mani sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Shall we start, sir?
The audios must be muted of others.
Yes, sir.
Admin.
There
Host,
is
Mr.
someone,
Host.
please mute.
No, sir. No, sir.
Yes, hello.
Yes, sir.
No, sir. Mani sir, எல்லாத்தையும் rest of the thing எல்லாம் mute பண்ணுங்க.
Panta, sir. Yes, sir. We can start.
Still few are unmuted just to see the participant list. Let us start. Very good morning. Today,
Good morning.
we are gathered here for the webinar on demystifying data source and of electronics and instrumentation engineering of this institution. It is a right time to host such a webinar since the nation is under lockdown. I hope all participants stay safe at home. And this is the mode of learning something about data acquisition. In this scenario, I welcome all the external participants, internal participants, faculty members, especially today's speaker, Dr. S. Meenakshi Sundaram, Associate Professor, Senior Scale, Department of Instrumentation and Control Engineering, Manipal Institute of Technology, Manipal. On behalf of the department, faculty members, students, participants, and my own, I welcome Dr. Meenakshi Sundaram sir for the webinar.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. And about the speaker is Dr. S. Meenakshi Sundaram has completed his BE in Instrumentation and Control Engineering from Madurai Kamaraj University, Tamil Nadu. And he completed his MT and his PhD from Manipal University on MEMS during the year 2014. He started his career as instrument engineer in thermo process engineering, Thane, and he worked at a fertilizer company, Chemical Fertilizers Limited, Cochin, and National Institute of Technology, Tiruchirappalli. He joined MIT, Manipal Institute of Technology, as a lecturer in instrumentation and control engineering during 2004. And since then, continued his career in the same department. He is currently working as associate professor, senior scale in MIT, Manipal. To his credit, he has published 62 research papers in various national and international conferences, and he acts as a reviewer for many journals. He also delivered and organized many workshops focused on theme of process control, real-time interfacing, and programmable logic controllers. And he received a seed money of ₹50,000 from Manipal Academy of Higher Education to carry out a project on the title of Weighing in Laying. So with these few words, I invite Dr. S. Meenakshi Sundaram to take over this session. I hope this session will be fruitful for our participants, and I request the participants to discuss any doubt at the end of the session. Then only it will be a two-way of communication. Let the faculty teach, let the student listen, and at the end of the session, there will be interaction. So hence, I request Dr. Meenakshi Sundaram to take over the webinar. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Good morning to everyone. It's my pleasure to deliver this webinar on data acquisition. The Department of Electronics and Instrumentation, Hindustan College of Engineering, the HOD and Mr. Devasigamani for organizing this webinar in a well-planned manner. So the chat box is open. If you have any queries, you can just post your queries on the chat box. We'll take some time and we will go through our questions. Also, the PDF version of this presentation is available at slideshare.net/Meenasundar. You are free to download. You need a LinkedIn ID. So once if you log in, you can also download this presentation and use it for later purpose. You can also can go through this live stream using YouTube. With this, very good morning again. One or the other way, you are expecting something, know about more about data acquisition or at least some basics of data acquisition and how we can do basically get the data into the PC using some standard platform. This motto, I plan this into two parts. The first part consists of basic.
ನಾವು ಕಾಣ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇವೆ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಲ್ಲ
Please mute yourself. I request Devasigamni to mute all the people, all the participants.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Devasigamni, please take care.
So I divided this into two halves. The first one consists of the basics of data acquisition system. Even though you know about it, there are a few things you have to know before starting this data acquisition. The basics we can see. And the next part of that is how we can do data acquisition. So in the basics of data acquisition, introduction, block diagram, sampling rate, what do you mean by aliasing, sampling theorem, throughput, the logical levels, resolution, range, mode, normalization, and a small case study. All these things will be covered in next 20 minutes or so. And then while coming to this, how we can do data acquisition, I'm trying to cover a few of the DAC, show you what is a DAC device and the hardware, what are the features available in MATLAB Toolbox, how to use this NI DAC card using MATLAB, and Arduino to MATLAB. I have one more product called as ES2002 and how you can use it with the MATLAB, Simulink, and LabVIEW. Also, at the end of this, I will show you a few of the examples that how you can get data using some standard Modbus devices. So that is the whole agenda of this presentation. Coming to the basics of data acquisition system. What is the data acquisition system? Simply speaking, I can say it is a mediator or a link to which you are going to give some signal. In turn, it is going to give or pass the data to your PC. Okay. Now, then actually the question comes, what do you mean by a signal? From where the signal comes? Signals are some standard representation of some information, where it comes from any of the sensor, voltage source, something like that. Okay. So a DAC device is going to be used as a mediator or interface between the signal to the PC. It is going to be abbreviated as DAS or DAQ. Usually the term DAQ will be used. There are some standard definition for this. Typically convert analog signal to digital value processing and digital values to analog signal for controlling. There are some standard definitions of Wikipedia is also available. Okay, now comes from where the signal comes. Signal comes from basically, from our case, it is from a sensor or a transmitter or a transducer, whatever may be that we can see. Okay, where that is connected? That is connected to the process. The process may be of wide variety, right? We may have a temperature process. We want to measure the temperature of a room, a temperature of a furnace, and then we may want to measure the flow of a pipeline. We may have pressure. We may have speed of a motor. We have a level extra. Any of this physical variable we want to measure. So for that, we use something called as the sensors. If it is the temperature, we have wide varieties of temperature sensors available, RTD, thermocouple, thermistors, extra. And then if it is flow, then we have again good set of flow meters, flow converters or flow sensors will be available, right? Mass flow meters, volume flow meters, all those things. And for pressure, again, we have a set of diaphragm based piezoresistive capacitive pressure sensors available. For speed, we have tachometers, tachogenerators. So basically, we have a handful of sensors available with us to convert that physical variable into some means of a process, what I can say is some good form of a signal. Okay. So what is important here? We are doing because to know what is happening on the physical system. For that, a bit of understanding about the sensor and the process is also important before you go to the data acquisition system. Okay, let us start an example like this. So what you can do as a very first step, understand your process. This is very important. So what you are supposed to understand on our process, what you are going to measure, what you want physically, the process variable, and then what is the range of that measurement. For example, if we want to measure the temperature of a AC room, at the maximum it will be 35 to 40 degree. No, it cannot be more than that. At the least, it is going to be in a very cold condition. It will be somewhat close to 10 to 15 degree. So that understanding is much important while we select the DAC card. Even in fact, will we select the temperature, select the sensors also. But whereas if we want to measure the temperature of a furnace, let us take iron and steel industry, where a furnace is used to melt iron, which will be near about 1200 to 1400 degrees centigrade. So in those cases, you need a very clear understanding about how to select the sensor, what is the range of your physical variable or process variable. And if you have a fair idea about that, then selection of or working with this data acquisition is also going to be simple. Now comes the third and very important point, something called as the frequency of signal variation. As if they give an example, take the temperature measurement of a room, AC room, in fact. The temperature is not going to change much. It may be set at 22 degrees centigrade. It will be somewhat close to 22.1 or 20.5 in that range. So the signal is not going to vary much. Or you can say that some of the other example that the temperature of the outside temperature on a hot day, where there won't be not much change. Whereas in the same case, if you want to measure the speed of a wind, okay, there'll be a drastic change from every time to time or every second, in fact. So you have to know what is the minimum value you want to measure, what is the maximum value, what is the frequency, right? And what is the nature of this process. So all this is very important while going for a data acquisition system. Now, based on this, you select a suitable sensor, a direct or indirect measurement, how much of accuracy you want, and how much of resolution you want. Also, there are something called the standard outputs, and what is the range of what range the sensor is going to work. You have to know about a bit of calibration, right? And finally, everything comes with respect to the cost and budget. So based on your cost, budget, you select somewhat a suitable sensor for your process. And if you have a fair idea about this thing, and you are good to go for data acquisition. Okay. Hope this is fine. Now, let us take a simple example quickly. To understand the process, let us take, I'm going to measure the temperature for a range of 0 to 1200 degrees centigrade. I am selecting a thermocouple. So thermocouple for 0 degrees centigrade, it's going to give me 0 millivolt. For 1200 degrees centigrade, it is going to give me 48.838 millivolt. So this is the nature of this particular sensor. This particular, there are actually a small difference between a sensor and a transducer, right? Even if I make some mistakes, if I use this, please pardon me. So what is going to happen at a 1200 degree centigrade? I will be getting something around 48.83 millivolt from this, and again, this is the reference junction is kept at 0 degree centigrade. Now I am going for the data acquisition of this. What exactly I have to do? This is very low in voltage, so I cannot process this directly. So I need some circuit, what we call to see signal conditioning circuit, which is basically going to convert this small voltage into something called as accessible voltage level. This part is something difficult because you cannot have, you cannot do everything. You need some basic understanding about the electronics, how amplifier works, what type of amplifier you're supposed to use, what type of filter you're supposed to use, extra. So there comes the ready-made thing, what we call it as transmitters. A transmitter is basically a combined or mixed version of this thermocouple along with the signal conditioning circuit, so that it is going to give, or it is calibrated to give a standard output voltage for the range of your physical variable. This is very important. Suppose I need a 0 to 1200 degree centigrade of measurement. My transmitter is going to be calibrated to give me either a 0 to 5 volt or a 420 milliamps. Usually the current standard is normally used in industry. So we'll go with these 420 milliamps. There are actually other standards are also available. You may go bipolar as -10 to +10, -5 to +5, 0 to 10 volt is also some of the few of the voltage standards. But if you look at the current standard, it is going to be 420 milliamps and 0 to 20 milliamps. So this part is our starting point. We assume that we have a voltage or we have a signal in the form of either a voltage or in the form of a current. From there, we will focus on how to take this voltage inside the PC with our platform, whatever we require. Okay. In the meantime, if you have any doubts, you can just post it on the chat. I'm happy to answer questions. Okay. Now, so whatever we discussed so far, I can say that a DAC has two sides. The first, the second, the output side is going to be the PC side. Okay. On the signal side, we have the physical variable, we have a sensor, and we have something called a signal conditioning circuit. Whereas on the processor side, there are a few more things again we have to understand. First and very important thing is you have to understand about the communication medium. How your DAC is connected with your PC. Either it is wired or it is wireless, what form of data, either it is a serial or it is going to use a USB converter or something. Okay, either it is RS485. So there are a good set of standards available. Basically, it starts from RS232, RS485 for serial communications. For Wi-Fi, we have TCP/IP protocols. So there are a good thing, good set of thing will be available on this. Okay, so we also have to. Hello. Can you please mute your mic? Can you please mute your mics yourself, please? Okay. So on this other side, we have to know about a bit of communication medium. We also have to know about something called as what are the protocols it is going to follow. And very importantly, the other two things going to be called as the driver software and the application software, or what we call it as a software platform. Driver software, I can give just an example. If I use something, okay, I'll come to the next slide. So I can pictorially represent this. I have a physical variable, and it is going to be sensed by a sensor or a transmitter, going to give me a standard signal. That comes to my DAC, and the DAC uses some communication medium, and then there are some protocols it is going to be governed, and I'm going to be accessed by the software platform. Okay. In a nutshell, I can say something like this. I have a physical variable. It may be a temperature, pressure, anything else. And the transducer or sensor is going to pick up the signal. Basically, it is going to be noisy in nature. And then I have something called as a signal conditioning circuit, going to be filtered and amplified. And then this is what, as a part of our DAC, going to be called as ADCs and then the computer. So just as example, I'm going to use something called as 8-bit resolution ADC. So I will come back to later what is the resolution. I can have 8-bit, I can have 16-bit. So basically it converts the analog data into a digital one, and that is stored in a PC as zeros and ones. Now, this is for a single channel, but usually this DAC comes with multiple channels. So what you are supposed to do, before this ADC, you are going to place something called as a multiplexer. So from the set of sensors, it comes to the multiplexer, it multiplexes, and then it is going to be given to the ADC, and then it goes to the PC. On the other side, from the PC, it goes to the DAC, and from the DAC, it actually goes to some signal conditioning circuit, and then it goes to the physical world. This is what represented here. I have a real world, two sides of it. One is actuator, the other one is a transmitter. A transmitter is going to be used for sensing. Actuator is going to be for as a control element. And then the transducer, I have a signal conditioning circuit going to be given to the PC. The output from the PC is going to be given to the actuators, which affect the physical variable for control purpose. Now, there are a few things you have to understand before getting into the data acquisition. The first one is going to be called as a sampling rate. What exactly the frequency I have to sample? Let us take, I have analog input. This is a very simple example, I can explain you. Suppose if I take 4 samples per cycle, I'm going to take 1 point here, going to take 1 point here, the third one here, the fourth one here. If you try to reconstruct using these 4 points, and it is a usual method that the nearest points will be connected by a straight line. So from this point to this point, we'll get a straight line. This point, this first point to second point, we'll get another straight line, and so on. Instead of a sinusoidal waveform, it looked like it is a trapezoid. So we usually lose a huge amount of information if we use a very less sample, or the sampling frequency is very poor. What I can do, I can increase that. Instead of 4 samples for the same cycle, I can go with 8 samples. Bit better, you can say that from this point to this point, so I have 8 values available, and I am connecting all these values. Okay, somewhat close to that, but not exactly this. And then I can move to something called as a 16 samples per cycle. This is something better. Okay, so we obviously think that if we go for more or higher sampling rate, the reconstruction is going to be better, but that is not true. Okay, so higher the sampling rate, the better is not obviously true. Why it is not true? Because there is something you have to understand about the frequency of the input signal. So there comes the sampling theorem. There is something called as aliasing. Aliasing is basically going to tell you that aliasing is nothing but poor sampling. Okay? You may reconstruct, just as example, whatever the given on the dotted line is my actual input frequency, whereas I'm going to take samples at the points which is given here. And remember that usually the sampling period is going to be constant. So every delta t increment, you will be getting the values. Now, if you reconstruct, you will again get a sinusoidal waveform, but totally with a different frequency. Okay, so this basically downsamples and reconstruction. You will get something some other information. So this leads to something called as aliasing. So what the sampling theorem says? Very simple. You find out what is the fastest frequency in your sample, in your input or signal. Then you go with sampling that twice that of the input highest frequency. Okay. Then we can able to reconstruct the signal as if. So that is the basic sampling theorem says. Why this is important from the data acquisition point? Okay. Just as an example, I have later I will show you. I have something called as a data acquisition card from National Instruments. This is a 6000 USP 6002. This has a sampling frequency of 250 kilosamples per second. You just imagine, I will get every second 250 kilo samples for every second. Okay, I'm going to measure the temperature of the room using this. What will be my change in the input frequency, change in the temperature variations? It is very, very less. Okay, what is the use of using this card for that application? So this basic understanding you should be very clear. So unnecessarily, actually, you need not necessarily to go with this much of higher sampling rate. I'm sorry, somebody has given that there is no sound. Is I'm audible properly? Devas Gamni?
Sir, you are audible.
Okay. Sir, if you have any issues, okay, you please check your system, audio system.
Slides are not changing.
Slides I have not changed, sir. I will. Can you see that aliasing and sampling theorem now? That slide. Can you see the change in the slides?
Yes, yes.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. So this is very important. The point is you have to know about what is the frequency of your input signal to select a proper data acquisition card, even if you are going to buy a ready-made one. Okay, but you have very less choice in that case because the standard DACs come with its own preset sampling time or samples. So you don't have much choice on that. So you can go with a data acquisition board, which is something close to that of your requirement. Okay. So that's the point I want to tell you. So you have to understand about what is the frequency of variation of your signal and what is the sampling frequency of your data acquisition. Then comes something as throughput. Throughput is nothing but I have multiple channels. So let us take example. I have 16 channels and my DAC card is going to be sampled at 100 kilohertz, the maximum. So throughput is going to be 100 by 16, 100 kilohertz per 16. So effectively, each channel is going to be sampled. Each channel's sample will be getting at a rate of 6.25 kilohertz. So this is called as the throughput, since we are using multiple channels. Coming to the next point is resolution. Resolution is again very important. Usually this ADC and DAC comes with 8-bit, 10-bit, 12-bit, 16-bit So 16-bit is the maximum right now what we get in the market. Okay, I will tell you what exactly that means. So, example, if you take a 12-bit resolution, you have to find out what is the number of levels. Number of levels in the sense, it is 2 to the power of the resolution, so 4096 level. What is the impact of this? Okay. Basically, the higher the resolution, more precise you can represent your data. What it means. Let us take example of this. I have a waveform which is of 5 kilohertz. Okay, so in time domain it is going to be 200 microseconds, and my amplitude is going to vary from 0 to 10 volt. I'm going to represent this value from using a 3-bit resolution. Also, I'm going to represent with something with a 16-bit resolution. Basically, you won't see the 16-bit resolution because it is very so close. It goes inside this actually. Let us take what is a 3-bit resolution. I have 8 levels, 3-bit in the sense starting from 000 and then to the maximum of 111. Why it is so important, right? I have a range from 0 to 10 volt. I'm going to represent by 8 levels. So it is 10 volt by 8 is going to be 1.25 volt. So each bit change is going to be given a change of 1.25 volt. Hope this is clear. A 000 to 001, you will get 1.25, 001 to 010, 2.5, and so on. What is the catch here? If my voltage changes from 3.75 to 4, okay, maybe a 0.25 volt change, but my DAC will still give it as a 011 or still store it as a 011, so that it is going to be represented as 3.75 only. So the minimum detectable voltage on a 3-bit resolution is going to be 1.25 volt for a range of 0 to 10 volt. So what is going to happen with other set of resolution? Suppose if I go with something called as a 16-bit, I have 65,536 voltage levels. So how to find the minimum detectable voltage? Assume again a 10 volt range. A 3-bit is 10 volt by 8, 1.25 volt. Whereas a 16-bit is 10 volt by 65,536 is going to be 152 microvolt. So I can be able to detect a minimum voltage of 152 microvolt. Any variations which is higher than that will be detected by your DAC board. Whereas if you go with the 12-bit ADC, then the range is going to be 10 volt upon 4096. Minimum detectable voltage is 2.44 millivolt. So now, using this explanation, you should be very clear again, right? What is the minimum detectable variations of your case? Suppose I am fine with a change of something around 5 millivolt or 10 millivolt. There is no use for me to represent the signal to go with a 16-bit ADC. You can very well stop with the 12-bit ADC. If a change is something around 0.1 volt, that is 100 millivolt, okay, right? Even you can go with something around 10-bit ADC rather than a 12-bit ADC, because this resolution is basically or directly linked with the cost of the data acquisition board. Okay. So once if it is higher resolution, there should be higher clock frequency it has to work, so that obviously the cost is going to increase. So if you have this basic understanding, again, you can select a proper data acquisition board for your use. So you should be very clear with the process. That's what again I'm stressing. Very clear with the process, very clear with your range of the process, your transmitter output, and then what is the minimum, what is the highest frequency on that, and then what is the minimum detectable voltage for your purpose, for your application. So if you are thorough with this, then you can select the corresponding, the respective ADCs and DAC or DAC port. Usually 12-bit resolution is sufficiently high for process control applications. Now comes the standard range. As I already told you, 0 to 5 volt, minus 5 to 5, and then 0 to 10, minus 10 to 10 volt are the standard voltage ranges. And then usually this DAC boards comes with, we can select or configure the range. So here also we should be very careful. Okay? Just like this NI USB 6002 DAC board, there is something called as NI Max. So using this NI Max, you can actually configure what is your range you want to work, right? I will give an example for this. You have to select the appropriate range also to get the maximum precision. How this is going to help you? Let us take this example. I have a range of 0 to 10 volt, and this is again the 5 kilohertz sine wave. I'm going to represent by a 3-bit. So if you look at, as I already told you, the minimum detectable voltage is going to be 1.25 in this case. Whereas instead of selecting the range of 0 to 10 volt on my DAC card, I'm just configuring it for minus 10 to plus 10 volt. Okay. So if I configure for minus 10 to plus 10, what is going to happen is, obviously the range is going to be 20 now. It is 20 upon 8 is going to be 2.5. So minimum detectable voltage will become 2.5 volt. Okay. So in that way, your minimum, the improper selection of this range actually spoils or give a very wrong data stored on your PC. So you should be very careful with the selection of the range also. Now, coming to the next point as logic levels, you know that ADC is going to process only voltage signal. So any other form, you may be a frequency signal, you may have a current signal, all those things needs to be converted into a voltage form before giving it to the ADCs. ADC, again, we have different set of logics. Logic in the sense how the chip is made. We have CMOS logic, we have TTL logic. The usual range is going to be 0 to 5 volt, and a 0 to 0.8 is considered as low voltage or 0, the binary representation, whereas a high or a 1 will be represented from 0 to 5 volt. This is, you are not going to do much with this, but knowing this is also good. What do you mean by the logic? Because manufacturer will give that the so-and-so IC is made with this type of logic. Okay, so there are quite a set of logics available. CMOS, TTL, then TTL itself will have different set, ETL, low V, BTL, GTL, like that. And what is the range of that is given the chart. You can refer this for any other purpose if you want. Okay. Coming to the last part of it, there is something called as the mode. There are 3 different modes going to be called as a differential, and then we have something called as the RSE, and then NRSE. RSE stands for referenced single-ended. NRSE stands for non-referenced single-end. I'm sorry. Yeah. Back. So now there is something called as a differential mode. Usually there will be instrumentation amplifier. The differential mode is used for if your voltage signal is bipolar. If you have a value ranging from minus 10 to plus 10, you obviously has to go with the differential mode of operation, right? Where 2 terminals you have to connect your signal. Whereas coming to the referenced single-ended RSE, where you will have only positive values, maybe a plus 5 volt, plus 10 volt, anything in that range, you have to connect it to only one terminal of this data acquisition board. That is sufficient. And the other reference is automatically taken from the ground. Whereas coming to the third one, NRSE, which is normally not used, where the reference will be given by one of the terminal, common terminal. I will show you in some other card also. So that terminal you have to refer with is actually a common terminal of ground, and other things positive will become individual channels you can connect. So this also you have to understand bit while using this data acquisition boards. As an next part, there is something called as normalization. In normalization, there's a formula how to convert from one set of range to the other set of range. I will straight away go for the example. Let us take a temperature range of 30 to 300 degrees centigrade is normalized to 0 to 100%. So my range of interest is going to be 30 to 300. And let us see what is going to be the value for 160. So this formula is going to be used repetitively. Later also I will give an example on case study. So the new value what I want to find is 160. This is the least value 30 divided by the range 300 minus 30 multiplied by the range what you want to convert. So 100 is a maximum value minus 0 is a minimum value plus basically the offset as 0. So now a 30 to 300 range, the 160 degree is going to be represented as 48.148%. I can give a very simple example. A 30 to 300 degrees centigrade, if you consider the range is 270, right? It is 300 minus 30. So 270, half of it is going to be 135 and plus 30 is going to be 165. So a 165 represent exactly 50%. Hope that point is clear. So why this is very important? Because your sensor is going to be calibrated to some process variable that is actually going to have a range. Sensor will have a range. Then how that is going to be processed inside a DAC and how it is going to be stored. Then you are supposed to use this formula for all the conversion. So it will be very easy for you to go through this example. You'll understand very clearly. So consider a level tank with a height of 0.5 meter. Level transmitter is used and is calibrated to give an output of 1 to 5 volt for a 0 to 0.5 meters of level. A DAC card is used with a resolution of 12 bit, with input range of 0 to 5 volt, and the level value is 0.3 meter. Calculate the actual value that is stored on the memory of the system. This is, once if you understand this example, almost lot of things will be clear about the basic of this data acquisition. 0 to 0.5 meters represented by my sensor as 1 to 5 volt. Now I want to find out what is the value or what is the sensor output at a 0.3 meter. Now use the same formula. So 0.3 minus 0 upon 0.5 minus 0 is a range. Multiply by this 5 minus 1 plus the base value as 1. So at 0.3 meters, I will be getting a sensor will be giving me a 3.4 volt. Okay. Now coming to the ADC, ADC is represented by 0 to 5 volt. It is a 12-bit resolution. So if you look at the value or the levels, it is going to be 0 to 4095. And now I have to find out how much is going to be represented by this 3.4 volt. So use the same formula, 3.4 minus 0 upon 5 minus 0. So 5 minus 0 is from here. And then the levels are going to be 4095 minus 0. So the level is going to be 2785. Now this 2785, if you convert into a binary value as 1010, 1110, 0001. So this is the value which is going to be stored on the inside the PC as a digital representation. So in a nutshell, I can say there's a 0 to 0.5 meters, 0.3 meters is a present level, going to be converted to 1 to 5 volt, and the voltage representation is 3.4 volt, and it is going to be represented in the range of 12 zeros to 12 1, and the present value in the memory is going to be 1010 1110 000. Okay, so this is what you have to understand. A few more examples I gave you. You can just, if you are interested, you can just go through this thing. Okay. So that is about the first part I want to cover. I think I already have taken enough time. The remaining 15 to 20 minutes, I will move on to how to do data acquisition using MATLAB. This point I will give you. If you have any doubts, you are free to post it on your chat. Is there any queries right now? You can also post or give a chat that what you want from this. That is also fine. I'm happy to answer your questions. Okay, so there is no questions. I don't know whether people are understanding or not getting anything. There are two ways. Hope whatever I explained is some basics is clear. Now we will move to something called as how can we do data acquisition. Data acquisition basically comes with basically processing not only the analog data, it also processes digital data also. You have analog input, analog output, digital IOs. There are some inbuilt counters and timers are also available with this. If you look at this example, data acquisition card may be classified as a distributed boards, or you have desktop boards. You have something called as the modular board, and you have something called as the portable data acquisition systems. So based on where it is exactly used, it is going to be classified. This two of the pictures, people can remember this. This is a good old motherboard pin slot, what we call as, the first one is going to be called as ISA slot. Way back in 2000 odd, we'll be using this for the data acquisition to place the data acquisition board on the motherboard. Later comes something called as a PCI slot that is also used. Then bit later we have something called as the SCSI cards that is used for data acquisition purpose. And then we have now the trend is about using the USB communication for data acquisition. Also, we can also use something called as the wireless data acquisition. We also have Ethernet based data acquisition devices. So there are some standards which comes into play for that. Basically, this 802.11 for Wi-Fi standard. Okay. So a bit about this hardware. In any of this thing, what is important from a user point is something called as the positive and negative of, we talk about serial communication, positive and negative of this data points. So in RS-232, it will be called as a transmitter and receive data, TXD and RXD, that is connected to pin number 2 and 3. And this is what it is called as a 9-pin configuration, DB9 connector. Okay. Now, a lot of or a standard way of USB communication comes with again different set called as type A, type B, mini A, mini B, micro A and micro B, something like that. But in all these cases, usually one will be powered, one will be ground, and what is important to us is D minus and D plus. So this are the two places where you will get the voltage values. So there is something called as the driver software. You have to understand. Usually, once if you buy a DAC board, uh, it comes along with something called as the driver software. This, if you look at the NI National Instruments product, there will be something called as NI DAX DAC MX. So this comes as the standard driver you have to install for all the products of this National Instruments. Whereas if you have a serial communication, you can use some driver software called as a CS340 SER. You can just Google it, will get a very small file, hardly some 10 KB or something. So that will actually the driver software is the one which will take care of your OS to communicate to the hardware. Okay. So it differs from different operating system. What I talk about, the NI has its own version for Linux and other OS. Similarly, serial communication will have a different versions for other OSs. So, as a very important first step, while connecting your DAC device to your PC, you have to ensure that your driver software is installed. So that point you have to take it. Okay. Now coming to the second part as the application software. So this is where we usually more interested, you can say, because I may purchase a DAC or something. So how to get the data into the platform of my need? I may be using a MATLAB, I may be using Simulink, I may be using LabVIEW. So how to get it? Now, it is ideally speaking, you can group that your data acquisition boards into some few of the types, basically serial communication or Ethernet communication or Wi-Fi communication. Based on that, if your DAC is going to support any of the standard protocols, that means if it supports the serial communication or it support the TCP protocol, then this type of platform or application software are definitely going to support those things. I can very well say that if your DAC code is of any of following, going to follow any of the standard protocol, you can very well take the data into any of your application software. So this point you have to understand a bit about the protocol and then a bit more about the hardware or communication system, and then what is the options available on your application software. Okay. So the software application basically going to be used for real-time monitoring, data analysis, data logging, control algorithms, and HMIs. We have the applications such as platform or application as Visual Basic, C#, LabVIEW, and MATLAB. Now, I will explain a bit about the hardware access using MATLAB. MATLAB has its own standard way of doing it, because MATLAB is basically is not going to be an hardware support platform. That is because the motto of developing a development, how the MATLAB has done is, it is basically a simulation software. But recently, from I can say from 2014 onwards, MATLAB is developing a lot many things with respect to the hardware. Even with the 2017 version and 2019 version, it has come out with a good set of inbuilt libraries to access your devices. So one of this recent functionality of MATLAB on 2019, they have come out with the option called as a Modbus. So any of your standard Modbus protocol devices, you can connect with this your MATLAB and get the data. Okay, but that will be applicable only from 2019 versions. Okay, so like that, there are some developments are happening. But on the other hand, if you look at LabVIEW, LabVIEW is basically developed for a hardware interface, and basically it's a presentation software. So a lot of people will not prefer to go with LabVIEW because there are a limited set of toolboxes. Okay, whereas that is the advantage of MATLAB. MATLAB, you will get n number of toolboxes. Whatever may be the application, there will be some standard things will be available. You can readily use it. But LabVIEW is also coming out with their own libraries recently. They are also developing, right? LabVIEW, if you use LabVIEW with its limited toolboxes, but one advantage of LabVIEW is that the presentation. You may or you may present your data in a graph format, in a text box, all those things. It will be very simple, very nicely you can do. Create very in a very less amount of time you can do using LabVIEW. So before starting using this data acquisition boards on your platform, you have to decide that what is your application. You want to present your data nicely. I have a hardware. I want to connect to PC. I want to present the data. Okay, well and good. Go with LabVIEW. Right. I have some algorithm. I want to develop something, test something. Right. Then I want to use a lot of toolboxes where I cannot do all the programming or coding by myself. Then well and do, go with MATLAB. Right. So this first classification you have to make between this MATLAB and LabVIEW. Once if it is clear, then basically it is not like that both are recently doing good. They have interoperability recently. That means that NI DAC cards are going to be used with MATLAB. You can use any standard NI DAC card that you can use with the LabVIEW as well as with the MATLAB. That is a recent advancement which is coming on this LabVIEW platform. Okay, now LabVIEW, how it looks, sorry, MATLAB, how it looks. It is basically derived from C language. So any of the basic commands on C language, the procedure, the syntax is also applicable with MATLAB. Basically, it is a 5-step procedure. Any object, any hardware will be considered as object, and you have to create an object. That is the first step. So I have a device which is connected to my one of the USB. You can go to the device manager and find out what is which COM port it is connected. So that COM port, you have to give a command called as s is equal to serial of COM1. Then MATLAB will create the object on as yes, okay, with this COM port. Now the second step, you have to configure this object or configure that using some other parameters. There is something called as a baud rate. How we are going to be terminated? There is something called as a timeout, input buffer size, output buffer size. There are so many things, right? So all those things configuration you have to do as a second step. Now coming to the third step, now your object is ready. You are going to do read and write with the hardware. Then you have to something called as use the command called as fopen. That is the third step. And coming to the fourth step, you can read write using the command called as fread and fwrite. And finally, you have to close the once the read write is over, you have to close your object with this command called as fclose, delete, and then clear. So these are some 5 to 10 lines of command. If you understand, you can interface this hardware, any of the serial communication hardware, you will get the data using MATLAB. Okay, just as an example, right? You have to specify number of data bits, stop bit, and then parity. You have baud rate, input buffer size, output buffer size, a timeout. If you are not specifying, it will take by default. There are some default parameters which is already stored. So you can simply also give s is equal to serial of COM1. That is also will do. All the other parameters will be taken by default. Now similarly, you can also create a TCP object. You have to specify the address and the port. The address is basically something like 192.168.1.1. Something like the IP address. You have to specify here. All these other parameters you have to specify. And once if it is done, you can also use the same command as f open of s, and then f read of s, f write of s. That commands remain same. Either only creation of object depends on either it is Ethernet port, or it is a TCP, or it is a Wi-Fi, or it is a serial communication. So those part only this only here you have to create object, and then if you configure the object, then MATLAB will understand and do that. All the other commands is going to be remain same. Okay. MATLAB is also having quite a set of basically instrument control toolboxes available with the MATLAB. So you can type this command INSTR, that is instrument, HW stands for hardware, and then info. So it gives if you have multiple devices connected on your PC, MATLAB will give you a list of hardware, what are the things which is connected to that. So you may find the help also using those, and you may, if you want to find specifically what are the serial devices connected, you can use this command. And there is something called as a general purpose interface bus GPIP. That is also you can find. There are some VISA devices from National Instrument, that is also you can find. So VISA you can use. So there are different set of options or commands available in MATLAB. You can use this using the command window. You will get the information on this. Apart from that, MATLAB is also having something called as a TM tool, right? Test and measurement tool. So once if you type TM tool and enter, there will be a separate window will be opening where you will get a set of hardwares, and you can select and see, you can configure those hardwares directly using this TM tool. So this is also an option available with the MATLAB. Okay. Now coming to something called as the standard DAG versus custom DAG. What do you mean by a standard DAG? Standard DAG is basically, there is something called as industrial standard products. We have from National Instruments, Yokogawa, MCC DAG, Advantech. We have from Omeka. There are a lot of data acquisition boards available. You can use it, but there are some limitations or issues we can face. Is that it always comes with its own application software. So if you just it will come with a CD or something, you can download or something, install, connect your device and read the data. That will be well and good. But what you expect from that is not this, because you want to interface this with your own platform like MATLAB or Visual Basic or Simulink or LabVIEW, something like that. So not all the time these boards are going to be compatible with those parts. Okay. So now what you can do, we have to do something, right? You have to understand again what is the protocol which is used by this particular DAG boards, so that you can develop a small code on your application software with respect to that protocol, so that you can able to rewrite the data. Now, what do you mean by something like custom DAG? There is actually nothing like custom DAG, but what you can do in a very simple way, you can use this thing. Later I will tell you how to use Arduino with MATLAB, Simulink and LabVIEW. You can use something called as Node MCU. You can use something called as ESP32. These are the good processors which are come out in recent days. Okay. This Node MCU is mainly used for Wi-Fi communication, whereas this ESP32 processors are extremely good, and they have Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, ADCs, DACs, everything is inbuilt on a small chip. You can see this is called as a development board. So if you understand bit about how to read write serial on this particular chip, then you can use this chip, you can connect it to your MATLAB, and then you can use it for read and write purpose. Now let us go with a few of the example what we did using this. So as a first case, what you're supposed to do with MATLAB, in the recent version, MATLAB has something called as add-ons, and then you have to click on that. You will get something called as a get hardware support packages. Just to click on this and you type here what you want. If you want Arduino with MATLAB, so you will get the option here is MATLAB support. You can see that in this point, you have this MATLAB support package for Arduino hardware. So once if you download this package and install this, you need not necessarily to worry about programming on the Arduino. That is a specialty. You need not necessarily to use something called as Arduino IDE. There is a platform where you'll be doing the coding for Arduino and dumping it to that. But once if you download this, and you can directly use from MATLAB with this type of devices. You can use this using Simulink directly. Okay. And then if you type National Instruments here on this text box in this place, so you will be getting one more support package where you can do MATLAB coding to use your National Instruments DAC devices. Okay. So MATLAB has come out with these type of options recently. Is actually good to know. Now let us take example. I'm not going to explain the code right now. Okay, it is out of time now. So I will show you some videos what we have done. Actually, I'm using this NI DAC board, this 6002. You can have a look at this. I'm just running this. What I'm trying to do is I'm going to create a session and then going to configure my input and outputs, and I'm going to write the value of 2.5 on the 0th channel and the 5 on the first channel, and then I'm going to read the input channels. Okay, so input channels I'm using only 0 to 1, so I have only 2 channels. You can configure the channels also. Now you can see that how this is connected. Okay, so one more point, how to check your DAC board, because usually you may feel that I need a signal to check it. It is not actually needed. What you can do is, this is something called as a loop back. The output of the DAC is going to be connected back as the input to the input channels, whatever the channel you want. So you give some output through your PC or something, right? And then you read it so that if the values come correct, then your DAC is fine. So this is a simple way called as loop back method, so that it will be used to test all your DAC devices. Now, what I'm trying to send here is, you can see that I'm trying to send a 2.5 volt and a 5 volt. So that two output using wire I have given to my input channel. What I am reading is going to be a 2.7 and then a 5.2. Also, I have connected this to the multimeter. You can see that a 2.5 volt is read. Okay. For this, you don't want to know anything about this DAC card, right? Only the package you have to install.